go ahead. You can keep your phone on. Hey guys, welcome in. I am Coach Ken, and no, I am not Jim Grasser. He has a little bit more hair than I do, and and I know y'all are used to him, but I am Coach Ken, and I want to welcome you to tonight's live. So it is exciting to have you here. We've got a great lineup. Things are looking a little bit different at this point in time. Jim has just landed down in Florida, and due to the nature of the airlines, things kind of got thrown off just a little bit. So, along with that, this week was already planned that Dr. Tiff was not going to be here. So, that already had things thrown up. But Jim's counting on all of us to help with tonight. So we're a team, and we're excited that you're here. And so as we gather together, welcome you in. And tonight, Dr. Esther, we got to meet. Goodness, I guess we met 2 weeks ago now down in Vegas. So this is our first time being on a live together, and I'm excited to hear from her. Now, if you're kind of coming into this new and you've never been on a live stream with us, this definitely is a little bit different than the way we normally see it. But if you've been on one of my live streams, this is actually going to be kind of similar. We're kind of merging two different ways of doing this. So I'm excited you're here tonight. And one of the big things that we're going to be looking to is talking about some of the key habits of getting healthy and an incredible system that will help bring that healing about. But the other part of that is learning how we got to where we are. And so we're going to hear from Dr. Esther about that and a little bit about her story. And then we've got two great guests on here in Tanya and Chris that are going to get a chance to share their stories. So as you're coming in, what I want to invite you to do is if you're wanting to comment, and maybe you have some folks that you'd like to invite, if you'll type the @ symbol and their name, send it on over to folks. Let them know that you're here and that they're invited to be a part of tonight's call to listen in. If you've got questions, we're going to do our best that we can to field those tonight. Again, I guess we are the B team that are coming into tonight. So we're going to do everything we can to make this a meaningful night. Everybody's here got great experience. Now, for me, you don't really know me. Some of you might. And for me, I began my journey back in 2023. I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And my wife, Dr. G, was the one that discovered this protocol. And for both of us, it really changed our lives. When I started doing the protocol back in May 1 of last year, I was dealing with diabetes. I had hypertension. The things that were more painful and more that I felt was the fact that I had acid reflux and I had migraines that I'd been suffering with for 20 years. When I began to realize and understood what insulin resistance was, a lot of things became more clear because when I was 9 years old in 1980, I was diagnosed with child's rheumatoid arthritis. I had no idea that I had been suffering with insulin resistance for over 40 years. Nobody had told me anything about that. And since I discovered this protocol and how we should be eating and the nutrition that goes behind that and those aspects, I was able to get off of my medications. I saw my blood work improve, my triglycerides lowered, my blood sugars got back to healthy levels. I got my life back, is what I say. And at 53, I feel more like I'm 23. And for me, it made me passionate about helping other people in a way I never thought that I would. And so tonight, I wanted to bring Dr. Esther on that's over here. And I know, Dr. Esther, I heard a little bit about your journey a couple of weeks ago. So I'm excited to kind of hear from you and get to know a little bit more about what your journey's been like.
Hello, can you all hear me? I'm wondering because it looks like my camera is frozen for me.
We can hear you, but yes, it looks like the camera is frozen, but we can hear you just fine.
But you can hear me. Okay, well, the voice is what we need. Okay, so I'm not going to be making funny faces, but
I can do that. Just let me know. I'll make whatever funny face you need me to.
Okay. Yeah, so my name is Dr. Esther. I am a board certified family medicine physician. I practice out of Houston. And I must say, I came across, this protocol, kind of like in a roundabout way. I was in the search for something, but I really didn't know what I was searching for. So, you know, uh, okay, am I still there? It just went dark.
Yep, you're there.
Anyway,
You're
okay,
good.
so let me know when you can't. At least I can see you guys. Let me know when you stop hearing me. Okay,
Okay.
so I last year, well, for 2 years leading up to early this year, a lot of things going on. I am at that age for women, the transition age, perimenopausal and everything. And so, a lot of things are not going right. You're not really happy with how you feel and not happy with the changes that my body was going through. And I knew something was wrong, but I just didn't know what. At least being a physician, there was that knowledge that, I need to check my lab work. And so I did do that. And the one thing that, in my practice, we do check insulin levels and everything. So one of the things I found was that my insulin level was very high. And I did not have prediabetes or anything like that. So, at that point, I knew lifestyle changes were what to do. Now, all through, we've been taught to tell people to do lifestyle change. Lifestyle change usually means, move more, eat less, sleep better, and all that stuff. But these are the things I was struggling with. I didn't have the energy. And you're telling me to move more, eat better.
Right.
you know, I know to eat less and eat better, but then my body just did not want to cooperate. I'm like, I need to snack. I would say, okay, I'm gonna try intermittent fasting, but then I would do that for 2 days, and by the third day, I am hangry. That's I am
Oh
hungry, and
yeah.
I'm angry at everybody around me. So I wasn't, a good person to be around. And
Right.
then
Absolutely.
you know, and then I was tired. And what would happen is, uh, whenever I would eat and try and eat healthy, my main meals, I was really eating healthy and putting all the effort to cooking healthy food. But then in between my meals, I couldn't stop myself from snacking. So,
Right.
my favorite snack, I have not been like a really sweet tooth person. I'm more of a savory kind of person.
Mm,
So, my
sure.
favorite snack was Skinny Pop. Skinny Pop, whatever the popcorn.
You're
So
right. Yeah.
that's
I'm a big
kind of,
popcorn fan, so
yeah.
I'm with you.
And I'm going for the skinny one because, hey, it's skinny, right? But then what would happen is that between my lunch and the time I left the office, I would have eaten at least two skinny pops, two skinny little packs. And then I would take one with me for the road to get
Right.
home. So
Sure.
now by the time you eat three skinny pops, there's nothing skinny about that. So, so, and then I would get home and I would feel like I can't even wait for dinner. So as I'm getting dinner ready, I am biting on something, fruit or something like that. I would eat dinner and try and eat early. But then what would happen is I usually prep fruit for my kids for snacks the following day. So when I'm chopping their fruit, I would really feel I really need that sweet taste. It wouldn't just be one piece. No, I would eat, a helping of fruit. So when I would look at my day, I was literally eating all the time. And I would try as much as possible and say, I'm going to just eat my main meals, but then I couldn't stop myself from, you know, uh,
Right.
going to eat this all these other snacks. And then unfortunately doctors offices, we should be putting carrots and celery sticks,
Well, what
as
did
I
you
was
put?
saying. Well, skinny pop, a lot of the packaged and barcoded stuff that we keep talking about to be
Right.
unhealthy, that's what we put in our waiting room, goldfish, I don't know, I don't even know the names, but things that come in very colorful packages and
Bags
stuff.
and boxes with barcodes, right?
Yes. Uh, so that was a struggle. And so what happened actually, still going through this struggle, someone had told me a long time ago, the one plant that helps with, that the yerba mate plant is known to help with lowering blood sugar. And I'd actually tried just drinking, straight up yerba mate tea, getting the leaves, steeping them, but then they tasted so bad, they were so bitter. And then who has the time to steep something for 15 to 20 minutes
Right.
every morning? That just doesn't happen. So probably take it once a week, and then, I would like struggle through it. But anyway, Martin Luther King this year, my friend was, she put it on her Facebook page that, hey, take control of your health and do something. And I was like, okay, well, let me listen. What are they saying? I'm free anyway. I'm not going to work. So I literally put my earpiece and continue doing whatever else I was doing because I'm just listening in. But then as it went on, I was like, wait a minute. They're talking about me
Oh yeah.
and the struggles. And I said, well, let me listen. So now I sat down and actually now started watching. And by the end of it, I was like, what do I have to lose? Let me try this. I mean, I was like, okay, it's one of those many other things that people talk about. It's this magical thing that's going to help you. And then you start it and you get all this side effects and all that stuff. So I went into it with a lot of skepticism. But I said I didn't have anything to lose because I hated the way I was feeling. I didn't like the way I looked, and I knew it was only going to get worse. So I went ahead and bought my first pack. January 29th was the first day that I took it. See how fast that happened? I talked to Dr. Tiff actually because the person who was holding the show, her name is Josephine, said, hey, you're a physician. Why don't you speak to another physician? Maybe she's going to tell you. You guys can talk physician talk. And so we did. And so Dr. Tiffany, also convinced me, but then I was like, yeah, this, you're just selling stuff. So I'll buy it. And I bought a 10 pack because my thinking was I'm going to give this at least 6 months. So I'm going to try it. If I like it, and then I will decide. And I bought it and said, I'm going to get my husband to do it with me. So I bought a 10 pack, not to sell, not to tell anybody anything about it, but just for me. Well, 1 week in, I knew something was different because suddenly I would wake up and I'd be so full of energy. And what happened on that January 29th, which is the first day I took it, hot in the morning. And so I went sipping on it to the office. At the end of the day, when I was packing up my stuff to get back to my car, I was looking for my coffee mug and I couldn't find my coffee mug. And then I realized, wait a minute, you didn't drink coffee today.
Mm.
And I was like, and I didn't miss it. And prior to that, I thought I could never go a day without coffee.
So,
Here was a
Dr.
day.
Esther, why don't you let's fast forward. What have been the effects now that you've seen in your life at this point? What has been since you've started this now? What has been the impact on you?
So, as I said, that first week, energy, a lot of energy, which has lasted all through. I still feel a lot of energy. I don't feel that afternoon slump. Then the next thing that happened was inches just started disappearing from my waistline. So far, it's now 5.5 months. I have lost 7 inches of my waistline.
Wow.
The other thing that has happened is I have now lost 20 pounds.
Nice.
And the interesting thing is that I have lost 20 pounds, but I also look more muscular, like I have more muscle. So I know if I was just to weigh, I have gained some muscle, which is, of course, is heavier than fat, but I have lost the fat. And then what happened was within about a month, one of my patients is the one who made a comment, what are you using? And she asked me whether I was taking the skinny shots, the GLP-1s. And I said no. And I told her about what I was doing. And she was interested. And then I said, why am I not sharing this with everybody around me? And so started my sharing with my patients, with family, with friends. And I am seeing the results with other people. I'm seeing the results with myself. And as I said, the fatigue is completely gone.
That's awesome.
The weight loss. And I did check my insulin again. And from 52, it went down to 2.5.
Wow. That's awesome.
So completely reversed
Yes, it
that.
has.
And I feel great.
Awesome.
Initially I had thought that name, Feel Great, like who names a system, Feel Great System.
It's the right
Hey,
name, right? It
it is the right
it
name.
really is.
It is the right
And
name.
that's what I want to
Yes.
hear about next because I know we've got two guests on here. We're going to hear from both of them. And I'm going to invite Tanya to speak a little about it because she's gone through that. I know Chris has gone through that. We're going to hear from Chris here in just a little bit, but we all kind of have that same kind of thing. So Tanya, you've been on the system now for a little bit and have seen some benefits. What has this been like for you?
Hi, I'm Tanya. I've been on the system now for 10 months. And so I live in Oregon, just to give you a little backstory of me. I live in Oregon and I'm 45 and I have 3 kids and 2 grandkids. And so basically, I've been overweight my whole life. I've tried all the diets out there, I've tried everything. Um, so after I had my first baby, though, that's when I really started having a lot of problems. I found out I had hyperthyroidism. So I guess that's when your thyroid overactive. And so the doctors never really understood why my thyroid was overactive and I was overweight. So it should have been like the opposite. So they were really confused about that. So my doctor, he ended up killing my thyroid when I was like 20. I had my thyroid killed. So I don't have a thyroid anymore. And after that happened, my weight issues become even worse. And I've been on the thyroid roller coaster ever since then. And after that, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's. So the whole thyroid problem, it's always been a problem for me.
Sure.
And then fast forward a couple decades. So just here recently, I lost my mom to an autoimmune disease, and that was all around COVID time. And so right after that, I was diagnosed with lupus and RA.
Goodness.
And yeah, and I just lost my mom from an autoimmune disease too. So when I found out that news, it was devastating to me. And I was in the middle of early menopause too. So I was a hot mess. I was a wreck. I was very overweight. I had high blood pressure, major anxiety and depression. I had very bad joint pain from the lupus. It hurt every day just to get out of bed was like a struggle for me. Every morning it would be a different pain. Every morning I would wake up, I'd have a different pain. I would have my hands, my fingers, my shoulders, my neck, back, hips. It was just a different pain every single day. I would wake up with the pain. And I just figured that this is how I was going to live for the rest of my
Hmm.
life. And it was probably just going to get worse as I got older. And so that was my new life, I figured. And then my doctor started talking to me about um, that I was pre diabetic and said my cholesterol and my triglycerides were very high. And so she prescribed me a statin. And I went and I picked it up from the pharmacy, but I wasn't going to take it. I knew I wasn't going to take it because I had heard bad things about statins, that statins cause diabetes and Alzheimer's, and I just heard bad stuff about it. So I was not going to take the statin. And so I started doing my own research, and I wanted to find something natural that I could take to lower my cholesterol. And so after I started doing some research, I started hearing people on TikTok talking about this Feel Great system. And I heard one of them say that it can act as a natural statin. And then I really started
Your
paying
attention, didn't
attention.
it?
Yeah, when I heard that, I really started paying attention.
Right.
And so I finally reached out to a lady on TikTok. Her username was Done with Diabetes. And I was instantly interested. And I knew I wanted to get it, but I just didn't have the money at the time to order it. And But I told her I'm very interested and I'm going to order it. I know I'm going to order it. And I was determined to order it because I felt so hopeless and I was in pain all the time. And so it took me a couple months, but I finally ordered it and I started the system last August. And so about 11 months it's been. I weighed 250 pounds starting out, and I now weigh 204. Um,
Wow.
yeah, I've lost about 45 pounds.
Nice.
My triglycerides were at 251, and now they are 139.
Wow.
My total cholesterol was 243 starting out, and now it's 179.
That's awesome.
So
Awesome.
I'm
Y'all that are
definitely
listening,
going
y'all
in
need
the
to give
right
some hearts and
direction.
lights right here.
Yep, I'm going in the right direction. And my doctor, she was very happy with me. I just got my test results back just like last week. And she asked me what I was doing. And I told her about the Feel Great system. And of course, she had no idea what I was talking about. So I gave her some information about it, and she was very interested in it. And so I have absolutely no more joint pain. The joint pain almost disappeared immediately, like just a couple weeks in, and I had no more joint pain. And
Mm,
so I recently went to my rheumatologist, and he broke up with me because he said I was doing so good that I just didn't really need to see him anymore.
yes.
And so overall, I just feel so much better. I have more energy. I don't stress as much as I used to. I used to stress about everything and have so much anxiety, and I don't do that anymore. I'm in a better mood, and I just feel like I'm aging backwards now.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. Tanya, thank you so much for sharing. Now, what Tanya was talking about is something that we all share, and that is something that we don't hear enough about. And but it's all about this inflammation, and people don't really understand it. And Dr. Esther, you know a little bit more about it than we do. Now we're kind of grounded here, but as a doctor, you have seen and understand a little bit more about the problem that we're facing, that insulin is playing with these chronic diseases. Can you unpack that a little bit? What is this insulin resistance and how did we get to this point?
Okay, you can still hear me? Because I
Yep,
see
we
my
can hear
camera is still not really working. Okay, so insulin resistance. So, insulin is actually something good to have in the body when it is there in the right quantities. So, insulin resistance comes about when there is a problem. So, let's start from the beginning. When you eat, your insulin, your glucose goes up because you've just eaten. Most of the food is changed to glucose or sugar, and I'll use the words sugar and glucose interchangeably. So, food
sure.
eventually gets turned into sugar, and the body's response to that is so that sugar is absorbed from your gut into your intestine, into your blood. Now, we know too much sugar in the bloodstream is called diabetes, so we don't want that. So, your pancreas produces insulin to push that glucose out of the bloodstream into the cells. And usually that's the way it should work. You eat, you get glucose up, insulin comes in, push the glucose out of the bloodstream into the cells, just leave the right amount in the blood,
Right.
and that's good. Now, because there's no more glucose to push out, then the insulin level should go down and wait until the next meal. Usually this happens, especially when we eat dinner and then we go to sleep and nobody's waking up to raid the fridge. Then, when you wake up in the morning, your glucose is down and your insulin is also down.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have breakfast And we have all had breakfast is the most important meal. That's what we've been told for years.
Right.
So everybody eats breakfast, and then cereal is what we eat for breakfast because that's the easiest thing. And we add
Sure.
sugar to it, and it comes frosted already. So you eat breakfast, and your blood sugar goes up really high because you're already eating something that's already halfway to glucose. So it quickly turns to glucose, and your insulin goes up with it. That's okay.
Right.
But
Okay.
then this glucose starts coming down, and you take a snack or you take something sweet, you take a drink, a sugary drink, you take some juice, you drink soda, you take coffee that has sugar like around 10, and your glucose goes up again, and so does your insulin. And then even before that insulin has come down, and even that glucose has come down to the bottom of that, you know, if you're looking at a graph, then you eat lunch. And now your glucose goes up again, and the insulin goes up with it. And at this point, insulin is really not getting a chance to keep coming down. So it literally just stays up because after lunch, you probably have another snack, or you eat a piece of candy or something like that, or you eat skinny pop 3 packs, and then you get home and you have a sugary drink, or you have a fruit or something, and you still haven't had dinner. So when you look at that whole day, pretty much you haven't given your body a chance for that glucose to come down. And so the insulin also hasn't come down. And you keep on pushing this sugar into the bloodstream, I mean, into the cells. And what happens at some point is, the feedback mechanism, the brain realizes, okay, maybe insulin is struggling out there. So maybe let me produce more insulin to help. And so that helps for a bit. And you bump up how much sugar is going into the cells.
Right.
But then when there's too much supply, at some point, the cells are just like, okay, enough. This is too much. We have enough glucose. You can't bring any more. And so the cells shut their doors. Insulin is not able to keep pushing this sugar into the blood, into the cells. So insulin gets wise and says, okay, how about I change the configuration of this sugar? Because you're still feeding the body with all this glucose. So insulin starts changing this into fat and pushes it into the cells. Now the cells start taking in fat, and so these cells now are full of fat. You keep pushing the fat because you still have too much glucose. You're putting fat in there. And then this fat also starts going into places where it shouldn't go because insulin is really just trying to get you not to be diabetic.
Right.
It knows my job is to not make this person diabetic. So I'm going to put this sugar that you keep feeding me with into wherever I can find it. I'm going to put it into cells. I'm going to put it around the cells. I'm going to put it around your visceral organs, and therefore that belly fat starts. I'm going to put it in your liver as fatty liver. I'm going to have some in your bloodstream as cholesterol. I am going to put some in within your blood vessels as, those cholesterol plaques. It's just going to go everywhere. Then it's going to start going under your skin, and those cells also, that subcutaneous tissue expands with the fat cells. And then it gets to a point, okay, now the cells are just like, okay, we've had enough. We've had enough sugar. We've had enough fat. So what happens next is, so you see, the first step was the cells resisted glucose being brought into them, but accepted fat. But it gets to a point where the cells are like, okay, this is getting to be too much. So what we're going to do is that we're going to completely shut off some of our locks, and some of those receptors, some of those receptors disappear from the surface of the cell. That's what we call receptor downregulation. Now you have fewer doors for insulin to open. So before it had enough doors, but now they're all like, no, we are just not going to take any more. So let's shut some of the doors. Now we have fewer doors. So now what happens? Your glucose starts going up because now there's even nowhere for it to go, either in the form of glucose or in the form of fat. The doors have been shut. There's 1 or 2 doors left, but insulin still keeps trying to do this job of pushing the glucose out because you're still eating and feeding it with all this glucose.
Right.
So that those are the 2 points where there is insulin resistance. That first part where the cell said enough, but then insulin got wise and turned your glucose into fat. But then the second part is where the cells just say enough is enough, no more fat, no more glucose, so we're just down regulating everything. And therefore, now insulin just has to pack this sugar in so many other places where it should never have been. These places were not designed for any fat. And then it is struggling at this point, and so your blood sugar starts going up. And so you're told, oh, you have prediabetes. Then the next thing they tell you, now you have diabetes. But then you also have this high insulin. And insulin in itself, when it is high, causes problems. Now you get to a situation where you have cells that are fat laden and therefore they're not functioning well because the cell should not have that much fat. So the cell, downstream, the cell is fat laden, it is not functioning properly. There's a problem there. When you think about all the cells in your body and what they're supposed to do, if they're not functioning properly, pretty much every cell in your body is not doing its work to the optimal level. Then now you have too much sugar. Too much sugar in the bloodstream is also not good because you're bathing all your cells in sugar. Now, I always think about this and, what do we do when we want to ferment stuff? We add sugar, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you want the fermentation process to start, you add sugar. Now I'm thinking you're having all your body cells being bathed in this syrup of sugar in the form of blood.
Right.
That cannot be good. And then on the other hand, you have this insulin that is too much that's also circulating in the bloodstream. Now, as I said, insulin is a fat storing hormone. We've already seen it's already caused fat to be stored in the wrong places. It has growth hormone like properties. So it makes things start to grow. That's where we see things like skin tags. We see skin thickening and darkening in the form of that acanthosis nigricans, where you see that dark skin around people's necks, in the underarms, Then we all know there's one thing we definitely do not want to grow, and that's tumors. So you can imagine if there was a tumor in the body, and now you're feeding it with a growth hormone, what is it going to do? It is going to grow. And that's where you find insulin resistance being responsible for cancers and, the increase in the prevalence of cancers. You have the brain bathed in too much insulin, too much sugar, not functioning properly, brain fog. Dementia is because of too much blood sugar, too much insulin. Pretty much all cells. If you have brain fog, you're not, sharp, with your mind. And as we know, eventually that leads to dementia. The other thing, as we said, all the cells in your body are suffering and not working at their optimal level. So for women, your reproductive system, ovaries, PCOS, infertility issues. Then the other thing is, fatigue, just fatigue of your body cells, your muscle cells. And that's why you find much as you need to move, your body is just tired and it doesn't want to move. High blood pressure, because one of the other things that happens with high insulin is that you don't have as much nitric oxide, which is the one that's responsible for opening up your blood vessels, being produced. So now you have very narrow blood vessels, and they don't relax. So you have high blood pressure. I mean, the stuff that happens because of these two things, where you were overfeeding the body with more glucose and foods that make that glucose rise very fast, not giving it a break. And then now you have high sugar and high insulin. That is where a lot of our problems come in. And
great explanation. Yeah. That is a great explanation. Thank you so much, Dr. Esther. Appreciate you unpacking that. It is such a huge problem, and we've all gone through that experience with that. Chris is another one of our guests on here that I believe that Dr. Tiffany had asked to be on here tonight. And so you've gone through some of this too. Chris, tell us a little bit about your story and what your struggle with insulin resistance has been like.
Hi, thanks a lot, Coach Ken. And thank you, Dr. Esther. Really, how amazing is it that we get the opportunity to have a physician explain these things to us? I know I'm a nurse of 32 years and had problems with my hormones and problems with obesity and metabolic disease and PCOS for decades and never actually got that type of education. Like, never had those pieces put together. So thank you so much, Dr. Esther. And Tanya, oh my gosh, you know how many people are suffering with the same thing you've been going through, and to have your pain diminished in that short of time, it's just, it's mind-boggling, and so great that the body can bounce back, that we still have hope. So my story is a lot like everyone else's here. I struggled for many years. I had gained and lost the same 500 pounds in my adult life. And I finally said enough is enough. And in January of 2024, I went and had a sleeve gastrectomy done, weight loss surgery, because I thought that was my only option.
Right.
And after a year, I had lost 95 pounds.
Wow.
Two things happened. One, I had zero energy that whole year, laid on the couch the entire time. And you know that that's not good for anybody. Two, I had my blood work done, and wouldn't you know it, I was still pre-diabetic and insulin resistant.
Wow.
I had a high insulin, and my blood sugar for the hemoglobin A1C, which shows like a 3-month period of what your sugar's doing in your body, showed up as 5.7. And I'm like, I went through hell and back again. I ate food this much for an entire year. I struggled. And yet I was still metabolically unhealthy. I'm like, I was so mad. I can't even use the words here because that would not be nice. So,
no, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I decided I'd go on the GLP-1 trip, and I did microdosing, and I survived 3 weeks. Sick as a dog, lay in bed, no energy, couldn't poop. My husband came into my bedroom one day, held my hand, looked in my eyes, and said, "Please don't inject yourself with that anymore." And I was like, I can't do this. Like, I can't do this. So I got off of that. And just at that same time, I was talking to my good friend, Beverly Grandison, which I actually think is the healthiest human being that I personally know. Right? She tells me about this protocol. And of course, my eyes are rolling because, Coach Ken, I've heard it all.
Yeah, you have.
I've been through the ringer in my own metabolic disease process and seeing all this stuff that's on the internet and watching it, I was just like, but if Beverly was doing it and she was getting good results and her husband lost 40 pounds and he got off the CPAP machine, I was like, maybe this is a natural way for me to boost my GLP-1, and maybe this could help me in my most important phase of weight loss surgery, which is the maintenance phase. That's the place where everybody does the regain. So I went on this protocol. Within 90 days, I went from a size 10 to a size 6 without losing any weight, gaining an extra ½ pound of muscle mass. Gaining. When you're losing weight and you're gaining muscle mass, that is health.
That's huge. Okay?
So the other thing is that I have suffered with migraines since I was 14 years old. I haven't had a migraine since January. I haven't had a freaking migraine since January. I'm like, Where were you when I was 14? Anyway, so then the other thing is, you know how I said I'd spent the entire year on the couch, right? Not able to do a thing because I could only get like 500 calories in my body, right?
Right.
I am in the gym every day, and 3 to 5 days a week, I get to dance, shake my tail feather with my aerobic girlfriends. Like, I have the lifestyle I've always wanted with the weight loss and the maintenance plan all together. Like,
Right.
my husband's on this. He's off his statin. I'm off my anti-reflux drug. And as a sleep sister, you would know that that's darn near impossible to do. My mother's taking it. She's maintaining her weight. She'd been ballooning up. She's maintaining her weight now. She's 82, so she doesn't need to lose any weight. She just needs to not gain any weight, right? And she survived a big hip surgery and she's recovering very well. My husband is down to the same weight he was when he was running half marathons.
Wow.
In college. He is 70 years old. Oh my gosh. My disabled son, he's wheelchair bound. He is gaining a lot of weight around his midsection. He loves toddler food and you can't negotiate with him. He's intellectually disabled. We've been putting the fiber in his applesauce and putting the tea in his applesauce, and he's losing inches. And we just had his round of blood work done just before we started this. So we're waiting 6 months. We'll take his blood work again and I'll be able to report on that. I am not joking. Listen, this fiber matrix outperforms pharmaceutical in blood pressure control, glucose control, in statin control, in cholesterol control. It helps people have the energy to live their life to their fullest, which obviously Tanya had said and Dr. Esther had said, and I have also attested to that. This thing, like this chlorogenic acid tea, is like, I never thought I could fast. I tried it years ago, read the Obesity Code by Dr. Fung, who's actually coming to our conference this fall. You got to go. It's in Orlando. Find out all the details. Be there. But I read his book. I tried it, and I was hungry, and looking for more carbs. It kind of shot me in the foot, and I just ate more carbs.
Sure.
But this keeps me off the carbs. I'm off gluten now. Holy crap, I can eat veggies. I don't have reflux, no migraines. Like, seriously.
Chris, I'm with you. Your story sounds so much like mine. Those two, the pain of acid reflux and migraines, I've lived that for 20 years. I totally resonate. Totally.
I'm, most days I'm just speechless, but I tell everybody about this. I tell everybody about this. And it's not because I want your stinking $25 or whatever it is that I get. I don't care. I want people to get the health that they deserve.
Right. Absolutely.
And for $5 stinking a day when I'm not eating breakfast or eating snacks, that's cost neutral. This is worth it. This is worth grocery money. This is no joke.
Right. Absolutely. So everybody that's coming in. So here's what I want to do. We've been talking about the protocol and we mentioned about fiber. We mentioned about tea, but that may be totally new to you. And we totally get that. What we've been talking about is a very simple protocol that has been shown in so many different places and studies. As a matter of fact, I'm going to see if I can share my screen real quick. I'm going to pull this up if I can do this, if I can get all this to cooperate. So we were mentioning about how the studies were done. And let's see if we can get this. I'm going to share my screen and see if this will pop right up. Can y'all see my screen?
Yep.
You see it? Okay.
Yep.
So this is a study that was done. This was done over at the Cleveland Clinic. All right. So this is a third-party validation study on a fiber multivitamin combination therapy that is a beneficial influence on our low-density lipoprotein and homocysteine. So we're talking about something that is addressing our triglycerides, all right, those fats in here. And I want to pull into one particular part of this study right here. Let's see if I can get this to zoom in just a little bit. And the conclusion of this is what is incredibly important. What the Cleveland Clinic, now you may not know about the Cleveland Clinic, this is the home of the heart stent. They concluded in this study right here that such a product, if taken regularly, could reduce cardiovascular risk on a population basis and potentially decrease the need and or dose for lipid-lowering prescription drugs. That's huge. That is huge. So we're talking about fiber. And if you're thinking about this, I'm going to do something that I talk about pretty regularly. I'm going to share a different screen. Can y'all see this one? From UCLA, are y'all able to see that?
All I see is the same.
See the same one? All right, let me share a different screen here real quick. All right, I'm going to pop up. So here's something that's interesting. So I'm going to share this one. This is from UCLA. Now, I think we can all agree that UCLA is a pretty respectable institution of higher learning. So eating in a certain order helps control your blood glucose levels, right? So that, Dr. Esther, that's what you were talking about, our blood sugar, right? It's out of control. And if we change what we eat, here's an interesting thing. We're talking about changing how we eat just a little bit right here. They highlight that several studies have found that eating vegetables and protein before consuming simple carbohydrates had a beneficial effect on post-meal blood sugar. Again, that's huge. So what are we talking about with vegetables? We're talking about fiber. That's what we're talking about. This is the fiber that we've been talking about. This is, I like to say, this is part of the protocol, fiber and tea. Something that you simply drink. It is, as my wife, Dr. G, says all the time, I'd rather work smarter and not harder. What we're talking about is getting the fiber in that we don't get enough in. And we simply sip on this. The fiber helps to control that blood sugar. There is, I don't know anybody, ladies, y'all tell me, can you eat 25 grams of vegetables a day? Anybody, y'all, that's what's recommended for y'all as ladies. 25
I can't, Coach Ken, because I've got a tiny tummy. All of my sleeve sisters, everybody out there, you know, really struggles with getting enough protein in and then having any room for the veggies. So that's
right.
A big, big deal. So the fact that that fiber's in there, it's like it's very important for the sleeve sisters.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's funny that what is readily available, easier to cook, is always the refined carbohydrates. Even when you know what you should take, it is hard to get as much vegetables and as much protein, uh, to meet those requirements.
Right.
When you think about the foods that will give you all the fiber that you need, I mean, you really have to sit there and do nothing else and eat fiber, and then where's the room for the protein? So
Right.
yeah.
Exactly.
And
That's a lot of vegetables to eat. So this takes
yes.
care of it. And this
Yeah.
is what the Cleveland Clinic was saying, hey, this works the same as those statin medications that we're all concerned about. This helps to control those blood glucose levels. It has the same mechanism of action that metformin does, that was studied at the University of Sydney, the home of the glycemic index. So we simply drink this, sip on it. Actually, we chug this right before we have our meals, our biggest meal of the day, and that makes all the difference. Now, we also talked a little bit about snacking in here. We all deal with snacking. We want to eat all day. I don't know about you guys. I always like to throw this question out. And I'm curious because it's always different. We've got 4 of us in here. We may have all heard different things. How many meals a day, Tanya, were you taught to eat?
Um, 3 and 2 snacks.
3 and 2 snacks. All right. Chris, how about you?
I was told to eat 6 small meals a day to keep my metabolism up.
All right. So now we got 2 different ones. Dr. Esther, how about you?
I was told 3 meals and 2 snacks, also to keep your metabolism up. And then I was told that as you grow older, then you eat 6 small meals.
All right.
So, yeah.
Exactly. We've heard all of them. And what we know is exactly what Dr. Esther pointed out to us. We eat all day, and it actually is not helping us to control metabolism. We talked, Chris, you mentioned, I think, Dr. Jason Fung. He's one that actually, in looking at all of the studies, all right, in looking at this and studying intermittent fasting, that 2 meals and intermittent fasting actually improves your metabolic health and the metabolism of your body. It is a complete myth. And so, but we're used to those, all of that eating all day long, that's spiking our blood glucose levels. But here's the thing about the tea helps with feeling full. Just sipping on the tea knocks out the hunger cravings, because we talked about insulin as a hormone. GLP-1 is also a hormone in your body. It is not a medication. Your intestines, when you are full, secrete GLP-1 to signal that you're full. So when you're drinking on the tea and you sip on this all day long, you've been watching, I'm drinking mine, and I'm always drinking mine. It knocks out the food cravings. And there we go. We got it. Look at that. Everybody's throwing it up on the screen. There we go. All the different ways that we drink it. So the system and the protocol that we're talking about, controlling that blood sugar, is right here. It's 2 teas and 1 packet of fiber. It makes all the difference in the world to handle it. And that's what we've all been doing. How easy has this been? I mean, we've been talking about the effects, how we got here, but ladies, how easy has this been for you to incorporate this into your life? Chris, how about you? How easy has this been for you?
This was really simple. Now, I have a different physiology in my body, so I don't do 2 meals, but I shortened my my eating window. Mm-hmm. So I'm now eating 8 hours or even 6 hours, but in that 8 to 6 hours, I'm eating 3 meals to get enough protein.
Right.
But
right.
yeah, I mean, like, actually, it's easier because I get up and go in the morning and I don't have to think about breakfast at all. Like,
nice.
That is so cool. Like, it's a done deal. I don't have to manage that at all. Like, getting that off my plate has made my life easier.
Awesome. Tanya, how about you? How easy has this been to incorporate in your life?
Oh, it's so easy. It's one of the easiest things I've ever done.
And everybody that's been on here, you've listened to the stories and the impact. Now, Dr. Esther, I mean, as a doctor, you've cared for people. You've had to probably give all kinds of guidance and people, the patients that you've worked with. How easy has this been to coach your people on people that you've been working with, and for yourself? How easy has this been for you?
For me, it's been so easy because I love the fact that it comes in those sachets, because you're not thinking about having to carry a huge container, and therefore if you're not at home you can't use it. So this is something that easily fits into my purse. I can carry just enough for the day, but then what I've done is I put everything. I have some in the office, I have some in my purse, I have some in the car, and of course there's a lot at home. But it's very easy it's very portable. You can take it wherever you need to to take it. And then it's very easy to coach people, because you just tell them, you just need to shorten the window, but then when you're fasting, here is something to help you go through that fast. Because when you think about eating, it is not just a nutrition or a thing that because you're craving. There's also that mental aspect of putting something in my mouth and the action. So when you have something that actually helps you to put in the mouth, so yes, you're still drinking something, but it is something that helps. So we're not telling you don't drink anything, don't eat anything, just sit and do nothing. No, this is giving you that opportunity to take something that tastes good, sip it throughout. So it helps whenever you think, because those first few weeks are probably hard because you're overcoming that mental thing of I usually get up at this time, it's 10, it's time to go get a snack. But then now I just sip on my tea and it turns off that hunger noise. So it has been very easy to just tell people, hey, start with, pushing your breakfast. If you feel waiting until lunchtime is too hard, push it a couple of hours, push it another couple of hours. Or if you're totally new to fasting, just start by 3 meals a day. Cut out the snacking, cut out anything else. Just do 3 wholesome meals a day. Try and eat them within a window of at least 10 hours, but at least do your 3 meals a day, nothing extra. And then with time, you know take out one meal and be left with eat 2 wholesome meals. And you find that that's easier because it's not a diet fad where we're like, no, you've got to do everything right at once, and if you don't do it, it's not going to work. This allows you to ease into it wherever you are, or whatever it is that what your current eating habits are. Then you're able to ease into this,
Right.
and it helps you. It is something that actually helps you do it. It is not something that you're doing on the side and then you still have to use willpower to try and overcome the challenges of a system. No, this is a system that actually is helping you in both ways, in the clinical aspect, but in the habitual aspect also. So it's just been perfect. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. So those of y'all been on here, if you've been invited or if you're tuning in and you've seen a recording of this, what I want to invite you to do is if you were invited here by somebody, get back with that person that sent you that invitation. You've heard about this protocol and maybe you have some questions about what you've heard from us. Tanya may have invited you, Chris may have invited you, Dr. Esther may have invited you, or anybody else that you're connected with may have invited you to be a part of this tonight. And what you've got some questions about, what is this protocol? That's what we're here for. And those people that invited you, they cared enough about you to think about you, to send that message to say, I think so much of this person, I want them to be able to live their best life. And that's one of the things that we are all for passionate about, is for you to have your best life. And that's why we do what we do. I want to thank our guests that were here. I want to thank Jim Grasser and Dr. Tiffany for trusting us to do this. Dr. Esther, thank you for being here and sharing your expertise. And Tanya and Chris, it was great to meet you all. I know there might be questions, so please, you've seen our faces, you know our names. Get with us. If you've still got questions that are out here, that's what we're here for. We want you to make life better for yourself, and that's why we do what we do. Thank y'all so much for being here, and definitely be in touch, message us, and we're going to be here. Thank y'all so much. As I say every day, go get the day and make it golden. We'll see you around the flip side. Tanya, Dr. Esther, and Chris, thank y'all for being here.
Thank you.